Are you turning to food when you feel sad, overwhelmed, or angry? Well, join the club. Millions of Americans struggle with weight and food issues because they eat for emotional reasons. Psychologist and mindfulness-based eating awareness training instructor, Dr. Sheila H. Foreman, is here with tips to overcoming emotional eating. Welcome, Dr. Foreman.
Thank you, Desiree. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I think this is such a great topic for us to talk about because I think a lot of people can relate. And you say we eat for two reasons. What are those two reasons?
Well, we should be eating because our body needs nutrition. When we are physically hungry, it's our body's way of telling us that it needs nourishment. But we also eat for emotional reasons. And we eat for emotional reasons because we want to feel differently than the way we're feeling.
And what's the danger of being emotionally hungry?
The danger of being emotionally hungry is twofold. First of all, when you're emotionally hungry and you're not addressing the emotions, then those emotions will grow and they can have more serious physical and psychological consequences. The other danger is that when we eat emotionally, we're not honoring what our body requires in terms of quantity or quality of food, and that can have its own negative consequences.
Yeah, and how can we overcome emotional eating? What tips do you have for us?
Well, the best tip that I have is to ask yourself when you're feeling like you want to eat, what are you really hungry for? If you're really hungry for food, that means that you're physically hungry. But it might be that what you're really hungry for is a hug or a cry or pounding on a kickboxing bag or something because you have emotions that need to be expressed. So
Yeah,
when you can ask yourself, what am I really hungry for? And then identify it and give yourself that, you're well on your way to healing emotional eating.
yeah, I agree. I feel like with emotional eating too, it's kind of like a quick fix in that moment, but if you're dealing with something emotionally, it's still going to be there after you eat that pizza or whatever it is. And if someone is
Exactly.
tempted to emotionally eat, how can they motivate themselves to get back on track?
Well, my best suggestion is to learn to become more mindful. Mindfulness means that you are aware of what's going on in the present moment. So just take a pause, give yourself a moment to center and ask yourself what's really going on? What am I really hungry for? And then, to the best of your ability, address it. Sometimes in response to our emotions, and that's not a terrible thing. It's what we do most of the time that makes the difference. So, by learning mindfulness, by practicing mindful meditation, by learning to be a mindful eater, you can interrupt that automatic reactive response of eating when you're feeling an emotion.
I like that, really checking yourself. Am I really hungry or am I eating to kind of fulfill something else that maybe I'm trying to avoid? And I take it that,
Exactly.
yeah, and I take it that this isn't something that's learned overnight, but takes time, right?
It's typically a lifelong pattern of behavior. Well-meaning parents and grandparents may give us a candy when we're feeling sad or might distract us with an ice cream cone. And over time, we learn that emotions soothe us. And the thing is that that food soothes us. And the thing is that food does work. When you eat something like chocolate, for example, there are biological, chemical reactions in the body that actually help us feel good. And so we can make that connection that food means feeling better. So over time, it becomes a lifetime habit. So for people who want to change that, please be patient with yourself. It's very hard to just immediately overcome emotional overeating, but you can with mindfulness and being aware of what's going on and what you really need.
And why is it important to address emotional overeating? Some people might be like, it's what soothes me in that moment, but why is it important for your health to address it?
It's because of the long-term consequences, Desiree. There are psychological long-term consequences. For example, grief that is not processed will build and will come out in other ways. Anger that's not expressed can also have detrimental psychological consequences. And then, of course, there are the physical consequences. When we eat more food than our body requires to be healthy, we become unhealthy. And that can lead later on to diseases like obesity, diabetes, cancer. So, both from a psychological and physical perspective, managing your emotions without using food to cope is the way to go.
All right, this was really helpful because I know I'm guilty of it, just like it mentioned earlier. Millions of Americans are. So these tools were really helpful.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Dr. Foreman, for joining us. And you can get more advice from Dr. Foreman at tameyourappetite.com.